Most autistic people don't fail at corporate jobs, but they burn out while doing everything right. Hey dudes, what's up? My name is Levente and this is Autistic Success. And today I want to talk yet about, again, corporate autistic fit, or actually misfit, because it's pretty much true. So basically, I want to talk about how autistic people don't really fit into corporate world and why it's very often gonna lead to a serious burnout, as it was also in my case. So I think the major problem here of working in a corporate 9 to 5 job as an autistic person, I myself have worked years in corporate R&D as a chemist in 9 to 5 job. So the major problem is that the demands of most corporate jobs cost a lot for autistic people. They cost actually a lot also for neurotypical people. But for autistic people, the costs are much, much, much higher, because for us, we need to run a lot of extra separate programs basically to make up for things which are easier, or I would say maybe even automatic, for neurotypical people. So, for example, one of the major causes, I think I mentioned that in previous videos, is definitely masking. That's something that neurotypical people maybe have to do a little bit, but not that much. While for autistic people, it's insanely taxing. It has an insanely huge cost. And that's probably the number one, or like the biggest contribution to burnout at any corporate job, I would say. This is also my experience that I have fully amassed now since I quit my corporate job. And back then, working years in a corporate R&D office, I was pretty much miserable and masking very, very heavily. And it has cost me probably 70-80% of my energy just masking. Another, I would say, huge factor which costs a lot is the extreme multitasking which they require you nowadays in any corporate job, pretty much. That you can never really work in a flow state, which is extremely efficient. And I think this is also a field where autistic people have a huge advantage working in a flow state, focused. We can produce extremely high quality work and also at extremely high rate when being able to focus and in flow. And this is something that you're pretty much never gonna have in a corporate 9 to 5, unless, I would say, if you can work in home office. There you have a much higher chance to be in a focused flow state to avoid multitasking. But otherwise, multitasking, again, costs a lot, and this is something that you will likely encounter at any R&D job or any corporate job, and it's going to cost a lot. Another, I would say, factor which costs a lot, again, is context switching, which is similar to multitasking, but it's more like that you have to do completely different tasks right after each other, or at a very high speed rate, changing. So, for example, like from 8 to 9 or 8 to 10, you have to write a report. Then you have to go do a meeting, which requires completely different skills and completely different focus, or like presence, I would say. And then you have to, let's say, do a presentation. Then you have to talk to a client. So basically, what I mean by context switching is that you have to do tasks right after each other, basically with no break or very little breaks, which need completely different skills from you, where you need to switch. And this is something, in my experience, something which is difficult in general for autistic people. I think neurotypical people maybe can switch easier. Even for them, it's not easy, because it's not normal work in the human history. But I think for autistic people, it's very, very difficult to switch quickly without major breaks, without any withdrawal, any serenity to calm down, to relax, to refocus, to, let's say, a presentation or a meeting after writing a report or calling a client or going to visit a client, whatever. So basically, it's very, very difficult to do completely different tasks which require completely different skill sets right after each other on the same day within a few hours. Um, it's really costing a lot of energy. Another thing which was also the case for me in my corporate job is definitely unclear expectations, which means that you don't know what actually they really want of you. They also would never tell you because you are supposed to know. But if you deliver something, there's a high likelihood that it's not going to be good, or at least it's not going to be, even if it's very good, even if it's better than anything in the history of the company, it's not going to be to the liking of your boss or to how we have always done at this company. This was also my experience at my R&D job. For example, the reports which were written by me and also my technicians led by me, they were objectively the highest quality ever in the history of the company, and yet they had triggered more and more scrutiny than ever before. It's simply that they don't tell you they don't tell you what they want. Even if you ask directly, they're never going to tell you, because after all, it's all like a power play. They want you to try, they want you to fail, they want you to never feel good about yourself or your work, because that's how they can keep you in your position. So this is definitely super frustrating and costs a lot of energy. And I think for autistic people who like clarity, who like clear goals, who like clear expectations, it's going to be extremely painful, and it's going to hurt a lot, and it's going to get you frustrated big time. At least that is my experience. That was the case for me. Um, Another thing I would say is definitely, which I mentioned in a previous video, is definitely overperformance in a few areas and skill gaps or underperformance in other areas, which means that autistic people have extremely unbalanced skill sets. There are fields where we perform better than anybody else, probably on the planet, and there are fields where we really suck. And the issue is that nobody cares, or actually they're going to be either jealous or angry um, or simply hurt your competitors, or like people who work, let's say, the same job as you. If you overperform, even your boss is going to be actually hurt, or not like if you overperform. But at the same time, you cannot underperform. You cannot say that, hey, I write the best protocols, the best presentations, whatever, but I really suck at talking to clients. Nobody cares. So they want a mediocre, average performance in every field. So if you outperform in some fields and underperform in others, it's going to cause a lot of issues for you, a lot of issues for your boss and coworkers. So it's definitely something which is, after all, going to cost a lot of energy. Another issue, I would say, and a reason for a very bad fit for any corporate job for an autistic person, is the lack of recovery. This is something, again, where if you can work, let's say, full time or majority of your time in home office, I think it's much better. So you have a much higher chance for recovery. But if you have to go to the office every day, or at least 4 times a week at least, then say goodbye to your recovery. You're not going to recover. You're going to accumulate more and more energy loss over the weeks, which is going to explode at some point, and it's going to cause like a clinical burnout, like a very, very, very serious burnout, which you will need months, if not years, to recover from. So this is also one reason, the lack of recovery and a lack of, in general, flexibility to plan your days or weeks to your energy level. It's going to cause, again, serious energy management issues, serious burnout in the long run, and it's again a reason why corporate jobs are really not a good fit. Another issue is, which I have always had an issue with at any corporate job where I worked, is that all the frame, all the pace are externally defined. So I can work very, very, very efficiently and very quickly, actually. I can do, like, let's say, a week's work in less than a day. But then I will also recover for days, maybe, or definitely hours or half a day, maybe even days. I will recover. So the work pace for a lot of autistic people, and this is definitely the case for me. It's very extreme. It comes in huge waves. We can perform a lot at a very high quality at a very high rate, very quickly. But then we also need a lot of time to recover. But I could never go in to an office, work 8-9 hours at an average mediocre quality and mediocre pace and sustain it over months or years. It's just not possible. So that is a problem, that basically the pace is externally defined, and you are going to have not too much of a chance for flexibility here, because after all, if you work for a corporate, you are a small gear in a giant machine, so nobody cares about your needs. You need to adapt to the pace of the giant machine, which is the corporate structure itself. So this is again a giant problem, and I think it's a problem actually for everybody, but most people, like neurotypical people, maybe can adapt to this a little bit better, but I think they're also hurt by this, obviously. And another factor, or not really a factor, but basically the summary of all these factors, is that the problem is that no matter how hard you try, you are going to be different to basically anybody else in a company either way. And this was also my experience in my corporate job. I managed to quit a few months ago. That I could deliver very good work, even though I was always on the verge of burnout, or I was already in burnout, but still it was decent. I could maybe deliver like 20% of my capacity or skills, or like I could really not show my real potential. But either way, even after heavy masking, even after trying to adapt to the really huge misfit of a corporate structure, you are going to come off and appear different either way. And after all, it's gonna be shown, or somebody is gonna be bothered by that. Either your coworkers are not gonna like it. This subtle subconscious feel that you are different, or your boss, supervisor, whatever, somebody is gonna not like it, that you are clearly, even if they cannot really put their finger on it, you're going to be somehow clearly different. And in the long run, my experience is either you are going to hate the whole thing so much that you're going to quit, or you are going to have serious health issues, including burnout, and you are going to quit, or you are going to sabotage everything and completely give up on the whole job, and then you're going to be fired probably. So either way, it's not going to end nicely, and you are going to have to leave the company one way or another. Because no matter how hard you try, how hard you mask, how hard you try to adapt, you are going to be different, and it's going to come off as different. It's going to feel different, even if people cannot really articulate what the issue with you is. And the problem with here is that then, or in this whole process, we try to push harder, to mask harder, to optimize even more, to adapt even more. But it's going to cost even more and more energy. So your energy deficit is going to be huge, and higher every week, every month, every year, which again, it's going to explode. You're going to be clinically burnt out, and you will have to leave the company either way. And yes, so pretty much this is what I wanted to share in this video. Some factors and some costs, which I believe make a huge argument for a very bad corporate fit for most autistic people. So my experiences, I quit my corporate job a few months ago, and I have started a small business which I'm working on in a completely different area. So my experience is that, looking back, if you are struggling, if you feel that something is really not working, and no matter how hard I try, I cannot seem to make it work, it might not actually be you. It might be either a company, or simply you and the company are a misfit, not a good fit. and you might need to reconsider your whole career or your whole life in that sense. This is the phase where I am in currently now. So I guess this was it for today. I'm really keen on hearing your experience and your feedback. I want to hear and see and hear stories about how you have managed this, or whether you managed to make it work in corporate, or you managed to transition to somewhere else. I will also try to explain more about my story and my alternatives, or the alternative life which I'm building right now. And I guess see you in the next one. Bye bye.